You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's season 2. It's episode 45. Cubs own the O's. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, subscribe to our podcast. Follow us on the socials, Fly the W670 on Twitter and Instagram, and Fly the W on Facebook, or email us at flythew670@gmail.com. Crawly, before we get started, I want to make sure all the dads out there that subscribe and listen, I want to wish everybody a happy Father's Day, and I wish you a happy Father's Day as well.
Well, thank you, Dustin. Happy Father's Day to you and to all our listeners out there. It's hopefully everyone had a good day, man. Hopefully it was a fun time. I know in Myrtle Beach the weather's been beautiful. I heard in Chicago the weather was beautiful. So
the weather's great. Yeah, the weather's absolutely great.
Can't complain, man.
Nope, no complaints, no complaints. And we really can't complain overall about the Cubs. They've been hosting the Orioles the last couple of days, and based on the title, Cubs own the Orioles. Things went pretty good for our favorite baseball team, but let's move it back to a day game on Friday afternoon. Kyle Hendricks on the mound for the Cubbies, Crawly.
Yeah, the Cubs won this one 10-3. It was the first start for Hendricks since he almost threw that no-hitter against the Giants. He wasn't as sharp as he was that day. He went 5 innings. He gave up 2 runs on 5 hits with 1 K, threw 88 pitches. That was Kyle's 10th career interleague victory, which is third most in Cubs franchise history, behind John Lester with 16 and Jake Arrieta with 13. Luckily, the Cubs didn't need Hendricks to be on his best game as the offense continued to rake. Oof. Fulmer and Kay looked good out of the pen. Assad went 2 innings, gave up 3 hits and 1 run with 2 Ks, and that run was in garbage time, so it didn't really matter. But the story of the game was definitely offense. In the 3rd inning, Miguel Amaya, Dansby Swanson, and Christopher Morel all hit solo home runs. Swanson and Morel, I believe, was back-to-back, and what would a Cubs game be lately without a monster inning? This time it was a 6, as the Cubs scored 6 runs. Happ and Horner and Suzuki hit RBI singles. Morel drove in 2 runs with a double. The Cubs offense scored 10 runs on 12 hits, 3 home runs. They drew 5 walks and went 5 for 12 with runners in scoring position.
Yes. That's what we're talking about, Crawly. That's what we're talking about.
We're cooking here. Horner went 2 for 5. Morel 3 for 5 with a homer and 3 RBIs, and Trey Mancini went 2 for 2. But Dustin, let's talk about Morel. Since June 9th, Morel is batting .440 with just 2 strikeouts to 11 hits. So he's dropped his strikeout rate down to 29.2. That really was the key number. The Cubs wanted his strikeout rate under 30%, and that's where he is right now. Yep. He ranks first in slugging percentage with .709 and second in OPS 1.063 among MLB hitters with at least 100 plate appearances. And like I said, Dustin, I mean, just looking at the kid and what he has done, I mean, you know, he was clearly disappointed not making the team out of spring training, but the Cubs had a plan for him. And I think a lot of times people kind of get mad, but they made adjustments and they had things that they worked on with him. And I think what you're seeing is that's what is kind of paying off right now.
Absolutely paying off. No doubt about it. They've given him time. They've stuck with him. They've believed in him. Now, Crawly, you just got to find a regular spot for him, right? Because the bat's too hot to take it out of the lineup.
But again, that's why MLB now has a DH. You know what I mean? We don't have to use catchers all the time. We can actually use a guy who could actually hit. Now, whether, you know, he may be one of those guys that likes to play rather than just hit. But right now, most home runs, Cubs in first 29 games of a season since 1906. You had Gabby Hartnett with 12 in 1925.
Absolutely. It's just amazing. Yeah.
Right. Hank Sauer with 12, Billy Williams with 12, and Christopher Morel with 12. The most home runs in the first 29 games of a season was Sammy Sosa with 13. So when you're talking about Sosa and Williams, and I know maybe some of our listeners aren't as familiar with Hank Sauer, he was just he was an MVP for the Cubs in the 1950s. So, I mean, what he's doing is just kind of video game stuff. And if you don't want to go all the way back to Hank Sauer in the 1950s, this graphic, for anyone that's subscribed to the Scores YouTube channel, we're on that now. You could take a look. But the most home runs since May 9th, when Christopher Morel got called up, Shohei Ohtani has 15, Aaron Judge 13, old Cub Jorge Soler 13, and then Christopher Morel's right there with JD Martinez at 12.
That's absolutely crazy. It's crazy. I really am happy for him. And I think this almost shows, I think, for the people out there, and I was one of them, I'll raise my hand, guilty. This is probably why they started him down in the minors like they did. I think they really got his confidence going. He got at bats right away all the time, built that confidence up. And since he's came here, he's been really, really good.
And not only that, they made adjustments to his swing, where they put his hands, and I really felt like it's paid off. Like I said, they got a great hitting instructor in John Maley down at AAA. He was the Cubs hitting coach in 2016 when they won it all, so the guy knows what he's talking about. So just great, and so that was an exciting game, and that was coming off a Pirates series where they were scoring more than 10 runs, but that offense kind of disappeared, Dustin, in game 2 a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, but it was the return of Justin Steele, so that was great news.
Great news. It was Steele versus Kyle Gibson, and everyone knew Steele would be on a pitch count, right? But he looked pretty solid in his return. Steele went 5 innings. He gave up 5 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, and 4 Ks. The only blemish in the game for Steele came in the 5th when Austin Hayes hit a 2-out single, and then Adley Rutschman homered. And again, you don't get mad because that's what that guy does. He's a power bat. But that ended Steele's streak of 53 innings without allowing a home run. That was the longest in the majors before Rutschman hit that home run. So good to see Steele out there. That's all I'm going to say. I was happy about it, and hopefully he can continue to build up his strength.
Yep. Other than that home run, I really was liking what I was seeing. The bullpen was warming up right before he threw that, so they knew that it was getting close. But they wanted to leave him in there a little bit longer, and luckily the Cubs would go on to some good things in this one, Crawly.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kyle Gibson was able to tame the Cubs offense that had been so explosive. The Cubs caught a break with 2 outs in the 3rd when, with 1 out, Yan Gomes struck out, but the pitch bounced off and ricocheted off the catcher, and Gomes hustled to first. So that was the first base runners the Cubs had for the day, was on a strike 3 that bounced away from the catcher. Yeah. Then Miles Mastrobuoni grounded out. So Gomes was out at second, Mastrobuoni at first. And he's fast. And then Mike Talkman, the Palatine pounder, the pride of Palatine, he's going to walk. And then Nico hit a double to center, bounced over the center fielder's head, and then it bounced up and it hit the middle of the basket and then stayed in play. We talked on the last episode, Dustin. I feel like the Cubs are finally catching some breaks, right?
Yes, indeed. You did say that. I agreed with you, and you're right. Yep, they are.
Because if that ball goes into the bleachers, it's only 1 run that scores. But because it bounced back into play, both runs scored. And so that ended up being huge. The game was tied on the Rutschman home run on the top of the 5th. We talked about that, but in the bottom of the 5th, Yan Gomes led off the inning with a double. Mastrobuoni hit a sac bunt to move him to 3rd, and Talkman hit a sac fly. The Cubs lead 3-2, and that's how it would end. The offense had only 4 hits and 2 walks, only 6 total base runners, 1 for 4 with runners in scoring position. But to me, obviously Steele coming back is big, but I thought the bullpen, right? This is one of the games in the past where you get a lead and then you have to bullpen hold it for 4 innings. Not a problem. Julian Merriweather went 1 inning. Mark Leiter went 2, and then Adbert Alzolay closed it out with 2 strikeouts. Julian Merriweather extended his scoreless streak to 10.2 innings, the longest mark of his career. He is definitely in David Ross's circle of trust on that one.
That's a good way to put it, in his circle of trust. Crawly, I know you're on the road. We're going to talk about that in a minute. So I don't know if you caught it. I was on the road myself in the car listening to Pat and Ron and Zach. Did you hear about the umps not knowing what the count was and having to go to New York?
That's CB. So that's CB Buckner, okay? And here's the thing I'm going to tell you is that CB Buckner, Angel Hernandez has not been calling games this year, so right. CB Buckner's up there as one of the worst umpires.
He's the new guy, yeah. Uh-huh.
He's always been bad, but when you had Angel Hernandez, at least it could kind of look away somewhat. But yeah, CB Buckner lost the count in the 9th inning, and it's just like they had to replay all the pitch sequence. The guy is just awful. If you go to my Twitter at Crawly's Cubs, I always tweet the umpire scorecards. It's one of my favorite Twitter sites. And they kind of just give you a report card on how the umps did. And CB Buckner is one of the worst umps. He just is.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. And they were doing a good. I'm driving, right, so I can't see anything. But they were doing a great job describing what was going on, as they always do. And I was a little bit worried that Adbert was going to get thrown off a little bit because he was in such a good rhythm. That was a great save by Adbert Alzolay. That was fantastic.
He was pumped up, man. I just love the kid's energy, you know. So
you talk about a circle of trust, right? I mean, he is definitely the guy now. He's that ninth inning guy, no doubt about it.
Right, you're starting to figure it out. You have Merriweather's doing really well. The whole bullpen has performed well during this this run of wins that the Cubs went on. And that's the thing. We've talked about runners in scoring position, and we talked about the bullpen, and with those being positive, with both of those things being positive lately, that's why the Cubs have been able to run off that winning streak.
No doubt about it. So that's 5 in a row now, Crawly, right? 5 in a row after Saturday's win.
Right. And so that takes us to game 3, Jamison Tyone versus Dean Kremer. The Cubs will lose this one 6-3, so no sweep. But you know what, man? The Orioles are a really, really good team. We talked about it. They are second in the AL East, which is a really tough division, and they have been playing great ball. And so they're still, even after everything that happened, I want to say they're still 7-3 in their last 10, even though they lost 2 to the Cubs. So they are a really good team. And so to expect a sweep would have been really tough. I was really happy with 2 out of 3.
Extremely happy with that.
After game 2, though, I was worried because even though the Cubs won that game, you saw some of the negative issues with the Cubs offense pop up. In game 3, it got even worse. Mike Tauchman started out the game with the leadoff home run to put the Cubs up 1-0. His homer came immediately after he threw out Austin Hayes at home plate at the top half of the first. So I just know, Pat, he's always talks about, you make that great defensive play. You usually make a good offensive play when you come up. So that was awesome.
And he's been so good too. I mean, the Palatine Pounder, he has been so good.
I thought he looked good. I remember being out in spring training, and I'm like, man, I didn't even know Tauchman was still in the league. And I'm like, this guy looked all right. I was kind of surprised when he didn't make it out. I remember Seiya had that oblique, and I thought
I remember you saying that. I remember you were talking to him back then. You were.
Yeah, he looked really good, and he was and they played him a lot too. They were definitely giving him a look. So, he's done great. And so Dansby also had a single in the first, but for the rest of the game, the Cubs only have 1 hit after the first inning. Down 2-1 in the fourth and 2 outs, Cody Bellinger reached on a fielding error by right fielder Ryan O'Hearn. Originally, that was called a triple, but the scorer changed that to an error. But Christopher Morel hit a 2-run homer. So this guy, again, to put the Cubs up 3-2.
Video game stuff, like you said, video game stuff.
Right. But unfortunately, that was the last hit the Cubs would have on the day. 3 runs on 3 hits, 2 of them home runs, 2 walks, 11 Ks, and 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position. Now, on the pitching side, Jamison Tyone took the loss. He was doing okay up until the 4th inning with Anthony Santander hit a home run off him to tie the game at 1. Tyone then gave up a single, walked the next batter, and gave up another single to Ramon Urias that put the Orioles ahead 2-1, but got out of the inning by getting Adam Frazier to line out, and then Nico and Dansby turned a nice double play to limit the damage. But Tyone came out in the 5th. Everything was fine, but in the 6th inning, things fell apart. He gave up a leadoff single to Ryan O'Hearn and a double to Aaron Hicks to put runners at 2nd and 3rd and no outs. Ramon Urias hit a sac fly to tie the game. Tyone's day was done. Lefty Anthony Kay was out of the pen. He gave up 3 straight singles before he was pulled, and then Michael Fulmer came in and got an out, and the Cubs were down 5-3. Hayden Wesniewski came into the game in the 7th and pitched 3 innings. He gave up 3 hits, 1 run, 2 Ks. Dustin, question I had, and I was wondering what your thought on this. Should Wesniewski have come into the game immediately in the 6th inning, like after Tyone was fine in the 5th, right? He struggled in the 4th. He did okay in the 5th. Were you fine with David Ross trotting him out? Or if Wesniewski was going to come out of the pen, should he have maybe come out in the 6th?
I agree with that. I think he should have come out in the 6th. I do, especially if they obviously had that plan going in, right? So I think that was a little bit of a mistake. But again, the offense needed a little bit more, right? You're not going to win a lot of games, but I think that was a mistake. I thought it was weird.
Now, the Cubs did have a chance to come back in the 8th inning when, with 1 out, Mike Baumann hit Miguel Amaya and then Nick Madrigal back-to-back hit by pitches. Tauchman struck out, and then what ends up happening is that pinch runner Miles Mastrobuoni comes into the game to replace Amaya. Him, Mastrobuoni, and Madrigal pull off a double steal, so you had runners at 2nd and 3rd with 2 outs. Down 5-3, Nico Horner with a chance to tie it with a single, but he grounds out to end the threat. Now, the thing that made me upset, Dustin, is that Amaya was hit on the wrist. He originally stayed in the game, but was pulled for a pinch runner when Madrigal was hit as well. So I'm hoping it was just a strategic move to get the speedy Master Buoni on second, and that Miguel is feeling okay. After the game, David Ross said x-rays were negative on Amaya's wrist, but he will be reevaluated tomorrow in Pittsburgh. But I felt so bad because that kid, he has battled through so many injuries. 3-4 years ago, he was one of the Cubs' top prospects. People forgot about Amaya because he couldn't stay healthy.
Could not stay healthy. I mean, he was supposed to be the heir apparent to Wilson Contreras, right?
Right. And him and Braylon Marquez were like the top two prospects for a while, and neither of those guys could stay healthy. Marquez still can't get healthy. And Amaya, he comes in, he turns everybody's head. He can call a great game. He can hit the ball. All sorts of things he can do. You just need him to stay healthy. And this wasn't, just a stupid fluke injury. This was a guy that just didn't have control. So I'm just really hoping he'll be okay.
Yep. But fingers crossed on that one.
Good news is the Cubs finished the 6-game homestand 5-1. They're 7-2 in their last 9 games and went from being 7.5 back to 4 games back. They've made up some ground, but I'm just a little nervous, Dustin. The last 2 games offensively, I just don't want to kind of fall back into bad habits here. You got 3 games in Pittsburgh this week, followed by 3 with St. Louis. So this is going to be only the second time that the Cubs are seeing other teams from the NL Central. Okay. They've now played every team in the NL Central. This is the second go round. So the second time they're going to be facing Pittsburgh, and then another 3 with St. Louis. So 6 games against the NL Central opponents. So this is where you can do your most damage, right?
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what they do against Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. You are listening to the Fly the W670 podcast. It's episode number 45, season number 2. Cubs own the O's. And Crawly, we were talking earlier about you being on the road. You're down, taking a look at the Pelicans minor league affiliate and the Cubs minor league affiliate, the Pelicans. And tell us a little bit about what you've been doing for those that haven't been following you on social, but that's just seeing the pictures, really. Tell everybody what you've been doing down there.
Yeah, it was an absolute blast. I talked to, Sam's been on the show, Wiederhoff, who's the play-by-play voice. And at Cubs convention, I started talking with a lot of the guys down at Myrtle Beach. And they're like, well, man, come on out. We'll show you a good time. I said, all right, done. So I thought it'd be a good chance, because look, man, if my family's going to come, they're not into baseball as much as I am. So there's got to be something for them to do. So, hey, what better place than the beach? And so when we pulled up, man, it's like a quaint, nice little ballpark, maybe about 5,000 people. And I got a picture up here of me, with the entrance to the Myrtle Beach Pelicans ballpark. They got this great gift shop. And the one cool thing about the Pelicans is they have a lot of really cool alternate logos. These are the obvious shirts, obviously, but they have a lot of cool alternate logos and crazy stuff that are out there. If you have kids, they have the mascots out there. They're really great. And they have a little play park for the kids to play in. If you are an adult, though, they have a lot of good local beers. This is a place that they call Hops Heaven. And so, I got to try, I had a couple of different things down there. There was the Crooked Hammock Beach Escape, which was a delicious IPA. I had the Grandstand Brewing. But the thing that put really Myrtle Beach on the map that got people noticing is the beer bets. Now, obviously, this is really big at Wrigley right now, but Myrtle Beach was really the first to kind of popularize these kind of beer bats. I got 2 of them. And if you could take, and so one of them right here has one logo right here. This is the Myrtle Beach Pelican logo. The other has the Pirate Pelican. So Thirsty Thursdays, they wear these black alternate uniforms, man. They're absolutely, they're really cool looking.
That's a cool hat. I like that hat. Yeah.
Yeah. See the team kind of come out there, and it's all a little bit different, man, but they just have so much to do out there and so much good food. And so like you can go to the right field corner and they have like these different grills that have different items. So depending where you are, if you're like behind home plate, they had all sorts of like ice cream and pizza and all this stuff, all the snacks that the kids like. They had a barbecue stand. I had some good pulled pork nachos. And then in the right field, there's this place called the Clark and Addison Grill. It's right on the right field side. And so they have a lot of different entree items. Like there was the Buckner's beef sandwich, the Lee Arthur burger, the Grace's grilled chicken sandwich, the Big Daddy named after Rick Russell, and Sosa's turkey dog. I didn't even ask why it was the turkey dog. But then I look at the menu, right? And they have this sign out here. And one of their signature dishes is the Chicago deep dish pizza burger.
I saw you on social media with that, but I wanted to wait to hear it. I wanted to hear about it on the podcast.
Oh yeah. So first off, it wasn't really deep dish. It was just kind of like pizzas, and like with a burger in the middle. I thought it was good. It wasn't bad. I was laughing, man. It's one of those things that it was like the only rain we've had this entire time we've been here was that very first night that we got in. Family was tired. They wanted to unpack. I'm like, fine with me. I'm gonna Uber over to the ballpark. I'm over at the ballpark enjoying myself, having fun, and I ate it. It was good. I liked it. One thing that was cool is that when you're in that corner, that Clark and Addison grill, is that before the game and after the game, the players kind of come out. And so you can get autographs. So I have a picture up here, you can see a guy signing an autograph, and that's Rafael Morel. That's Christopher's brother making the peace sign. And if you go to the YouTube channel, it looks just like Christopher. They look like identical twins, but they come out and they're just really personable. And then over in the left field, they have a lot of great drinks. There's a bar restaurant called Riptides. It's on the boardwalk, but they also have like a little stand in there. There's a picture of me and my wife on this like giant wooden chair. And they also have a lot of places where fans can go and do like different, like, if you have big groups of like 100, 150 people, something like that, or even like 30, 40 people, there's like a little beach on the left-hand side, which is absolutely looked like a blast. I didn't go down there, but looked like a lot of fun. And then, one of the big cool things is they have a lot of in-game different games. That's how they always do the minor leagues. And so I did compete in a chipping contest. I didn't do too well. I'm going to stick with baseball. Golf really ain't my thing. But I'm not a golfer, but that's a picture of me on the field and chipping. And we got a couple beer koozies for it. So I did a lot on Wednesday. On Thursday, though, was a really fun day for me. I got to throw out the first pitch there, and I got this great shirt that says "Beer and Baseball." The fun thing is I actually got to kind of go up. Oh, let me go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to kind of try to give you some play-by-play here. This is just a really quick video of me throwing the first pitch at Myrtle Beach. So, I got to throw the pitch. Now, I did make a mistake. What I did is I wore sandals to the game that day. I was wearing sandals all day, threw them on, which is not the greatest off the pitching mound. I will say it wasn't a strike. It was high and outside a little bit, but I didn't bounce it. So that was an absolute blast to be able to do that in front of the fans. And that was great. And then in about the fourth inning, I got to go into the booth and do a little bit of play-by-play with Sam Wiederhoff. So
very cool.
Very, very cool up there. And so I'm just throwing out there. I don't know if Mitch Rosen listens, but if one day Matt Spiegel can't do the fifth inning, I'm just offering my services. I have experience now, but it was cool, man. And I just made sure that I did not talk over the play. So if something happened, pause in the middle of a story. And so, a lot of fun. Now, one thing that is absolutely awesome is that the Myrtle Beach Pelicans have a bat dog. What is a bat dog, you ask? The player, when he throws the bat down, the dog comes and picks the bat up and brings it back to the dugout.
Nice. Okay.
So this is another one. If you got the kids, this is the dog Slider. They come out, I want to say in the sixth inning, maybe. Slider comes and you can get a picture with Slider, the bat dog. He's a huge hit out there. And I also got to do the seventh inning stretch. I'm not gonna subject our listeners to that, but I do have a picture of myself on top of the Pelicans dugout singing the stretch with all. Doesn't that look like I'm singing with all my heart there, Dustin?
Yes, it does.
I'm giving it. I'm going full blast on that one.
You're all in.
I was all in, and then when the game's over, like I said, I went to 2 games. I saw 2 victories. So I was definitely excited and, just looking on the field as the players, go Cubs go. And like I said, post game, this kid right here, I saw him and he was unhittable. His name is Michael Arias. And oh my God, the guy was hitting 95, 96 on the gun. And they just could not touch him. He's someone that's the fun thing about going to these. And then another one is Moises Ballesteros. He caught that game. And he's a great catcher. Carter Hawkins was talking him up big time the other day. But that's the fun thing about going to these minor league ballparks. If you have the opportunity, I know Myrtle Beach is a little bit far away, but South Bend's not far. Myrtle Beach, like I said, I'm trying to, this is just the baseball part of my vacation. I've been on the beach. I've been at great restaurants. We were going to aquariums. We went to an 80s rock revival show yesterday. There's so much stuff to do out here. But when you go to these minor league ballparks, that's where you see these players that they're not just like box scores. You get to see how they play. You get to see how they field, how they pitch, how they call a game. And there's just so much to it. And then as these guys start making their way up, you get excited and you have more invested. So, I mean, that's part of the reason when we started this show, I wanted to kind of make the minor leagues a part of it, because it is fun if you're a Cub fan to sit there and say to yourself, okay, and trust me, just because a player goes up or down, that's just a natural thing. It doesn't mean they're a bust, man. But there's a lot of fun players to go through there. And this last picture that I got here is a picture of my family on top after the game. And so there's just a lot of fun things to do out at Myrtle Beach. And the one thing they want to do is they just want to make sure you go home with a good time. Like I said, whether you're getting autographs, whether you're singing, dancing, playing games, getting food, drinking out of beer bats, whatever you want to do, Myrtle Beach has it for you. And everyone was just so friendly, and not just the employees, but like the people that were just hanging out there. There's a lot of regulars, there's a lot of tourists, and nobody was kind of like jerky about it, or, you know what I mean? Like nobody was like gatekeeping. Everyone was like, hey man, welcome to Myrtle Beach. Absolutely. Have fun. They would give you tips like, oh, you got to try this beer. Oh, if you go over there, that's where they got the good nachos. I had some wine slushies. I mean, just an absolute fun time. And
sounds like a blast. Yeah.
Oh, so close to the beach. So, I mean, seriously, I really, if you are kind of like sitting there and trying to plan out a vacation, if you're a Cub fan, I can't recommend Myrtle Beach high enough.
Very, very, very cool. All right, Crawly, let's talk a little bit about some roster moves and get previewing the Pirates series, as the Cubs are en route as we speak to Pittsburgh.
Couple news stories. One of them is exciting because I'm down here in Myrtle Beach. The Pelicans won 8-2 tonight. They are now your Carolina League South first half champions. The way that it works with the minor leagues is they divide the seasons in two halves. And so the winner of the first half takes on the winner of the second half. If you win the first and second half, you automatically get a bye into the next round of the playoffs. So very exciting. And for Buddy Bailey and the team and Sam and Hunter, all the guys that I just talked about in the previous segment that made this such a great trip. What an honor to be able to win. And again, just talking about the talent coming through the Cubs system, it was definitely on display at Myrtle Beach. Now, you just mentioned the Pirates, and there was a story that caught my eye that I sat there and I just was absolutely I don't want to laugh because, you know,
it's funny, but it's not funny, right?
Right. Yeah. Like seriously, like I would say, don't drive drunk, get an Uber or whatever. But the Milwaukee, the last team the Cubs played at home before the Orioles were the Pirates, right? And so you have your getaway day, and then there's a bus that waits outside right field on Sheffield. And what ends up happening is they get on the bus, and then the police will take them because they have to catch their flight. The police will give them an escort to O'Hare. Well, what ends up happening is that the driver was like kind of driving away from the escort and driving erratically, driving on the shoulder. So they pull over the bus on I-94, and the driver was arrested after they observed multiple signs of impairment. So luckily nobody was hurt. Let's talk about that. But all I kept thinking was like, what was that? Where was that bus driver at? Was he a Cubby Bear? Was he at
right.
Doors?
What was he doing?
Was he Issei Lounge? I have no idea what he was doing. But the one thing he will not be doing any longer in the future is driving any buses.
No. Thankfully, as you pointed out, nobody was hurt in that situation. So a couple roster moves. We talked about Justin Steele being brought back up. That means somebody was put on the IL, and that was Patrick Wisdom.
Yeah, well, so you had to make some roster moves here. So Justin Steele's activated off the 15. They put third baseman Patrick Wisdom on the 10-day IL with what is being called a right wrist sprain. Edwin Rios was moved off the IL where he was recovering from a groin sprain, and he was immediately optioned to Iowa to make sure that the roster stayed at 40. And so it's all that's the moves that we have right now. I'm really hoping that Patrick recovers.
Yeah, fingers
And
crossed. That one doesn't sound real good, Crawly. That does not sound so good.
a power hitter that hurts his wrist is never going to be a good thing.
No, not at all. All right, so that's the roster moves. Couple little nuggets for us. Now let's preview quickly Cubs Pirates.
Yeah, the Cubs didn't play the Pirates for the first time until mid-June. Now they play them twice within a week. I heard Pat and Ron talking about this today. Can you remember the last time that we're talking end of June, middle of June here, and this is the first time they're playing the Pirates at their park. And so, the pitching was fine, but it really was the offense in that first series that was the story. The Cubs took the first game 11-3 with Jamison Tyone taking the win and LL Ortiz taking the loss. Ian Happ had a 3-run homer in the first, and the Cubs added 8 runs between the 6th through the 8th inning. Game 2 saw Drew Smiley take on Oswaldo Bido. Smiley didn't have his best game, giving up a season-high 3 home runs, but the offense scored 6 runs in the 6th to give the Cubs a 10-6 win in Game 2. And then in the third game, it was Marcus Stroman taking on Johan Oviedo, and Stro did what he always does. He pitches a quality starts. Cubs had another big inning, a 5-run 5th as Bellinger returned to the team, and the Cubs completed the sweep 7-2. So when we look at the standings and take a look here, it has just been wild. Just the swing, Dustin, that's kind of occurred lately between, when the Cubs were looking 7.5 out, and you're going, oh my God, we were worried, 10 under, all that stuff. And then all of a sudden they do really well at the end of the road trip. They took 2 of 3, and then they came back and they took 3 from the Pirates. Now another 2 of 3 from the Orioles. This was from a little bit earlier tonight, but the Cubs are 4 games out of first place. Pittsburgh is sinking like a stone right now. We were wondering if they were going to come down to earth. It was really the Cubs, right? That kind of started that downward trajectory for the Pirates. So they're really in some trouble here. And they just played Milwaukee, and they just got swept by Milwaukee. So that's 2 sweeps in a row for Pittsburgh. Milwaukee has a 3-game winning streak, and they lead Cincinnati by 0.5. But Cincinnati has an 8-game winning streak. They're 8-2 in their last 10. It makes that sweep by the Reds a little less painful. They just whooped on the Houston Astros, the champs down in Houston. So look out for Cincy, because there's no team hotter in baseball than them right now.
They're playing really, really well.
The Pirates are 34-36, and so they're 2.5 back and on a 6-game losing streak. The Cubs are 7-10, 7-3 in their last 10. And then St. Louis, they're on a little 2-game winning streak, 8.5 out of first with a 29-43 record. So hopefully, like I said, this is again a chance to make some hay, and you got a team in Pittsburgh that's hurting right now.
Right. And the 2 teams, obviously, because they just played 3 days ago, are very familiar with each other. So we'll see what happens.
Right. So you got Drew Smiley, and as we talked about in the last time they faced each other, this is going to be a rematch of Game 2 in the series. And that was when where Smiley gave up 3 home runs, but the Cubs were able to get to the Pirates, but they struggled a little bit against Osvaldo Bido. So hopefully this time around they can do a little bit better after seeing him so quickly on the turnaround. In a rematch of Game 3, Marcus Stroman, 8-4, 2.45 ERA, is going to take on Johan Oviedo. And so the Cubs did well against him. And then it's an interesting matchup for Game 3. And this
Indeed. Yeah.
I mean, this is going to be the professor versus the old man. You got Kyle Hendricks in his last against Baltimore. Like I said, that was after that awesome start against San Francisco. I'm so glad the offense did well, because he didn't have to, you were able to pull him after 5 and not worry too much. He gave up 5 hits and 2 runs. He just wasn't as efficient as last time out. Against San Francisco, he had the 1-hitter. He had a no-hitter going into the through 7 2/3, gave up a hit. And then in San Diego, he struggled. 6 innings pitched, gave up 6 hits and 4 runs. Now, on the flip side, the Pirates for Game 3 are going with former Cub Rich Hill. And I, like I said, I remember him in 2007 in the NLDS against the Arizona Diamondbacks, giving up a leadoff home run to Chris Young. Against Milwaukee, he didn't do bad. He went 5 innings, gave up 3 hits, 3 earned runs, but he had 6 walks and 5 strikeouts. So that's the thing about Hill is sometimes you can get that pinch count really elevated. Against the Mets, he went 7 innings, gave up 7 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 6 Ks. St. Louis, 6.2, 4 hits, 1 run, and 3 walks at 6 Ks. I don't know, man. I just don't like this matchup against the Cubs. I don't like Rich Hill. I just feel like he's going to be one of those annoying lefties that's going to be throwing garbage the whole time, and their Cubs are going to be swinging at their bats like trying to hit a mosquito. You know what I mean?
And that game's going to start at about 11:15, I think, our time on Wednesday. So an early game 3. Get out of town, get on the bird, and go to London.
Yep, little getaway day action, but it's a series that's going to be interesting. Now, we talked earlier in segment 1 about Christopher Morel. You just can't get any hotter than this kid right now.
Cannot get any hotter than that.
9 for his last 21 with a double, a triple, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs. Dustin, only 4 strikeouts in that time period. That's huge. So he is
unbelievable right now. Unbelievable.
Right. He's slashing 429, 409, and 1,000. Also hot is Dansby Swanson, who's 9 for his last 25, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, 5 strikeouts to 2 walks. He's slashing 360, 407, and 480. Now, on the knot, you kind of expected it would take Cody Bellinger a little while to get back in it. He's 2 for his last 10 with an RBI, 4 strikeouts to 1 walk. So he's slashing 100, 182, 200. Seiya Suzuki has cooled off. Remember, he was hot for a long time. He's 4 for his last 25 with 3 RBIs. He's slashing 160, 250, 200. And the thing I noticed, Dustin, to me, is that I feel like both Seiya and Dansby are guys that just get hot and then they get cold. It's like, oh, man. And you just wonder how long it's just not really like steady. You know what I mean?
Right.
So hopefully, Dansby's hot. Now Seiya's not. So I'd love to see. It'd
be nice to get the two of them going at the same time. No doubt about it. And I think Swanson's benefiting from he's batting a little lower in the order too.
Right. And I think that's helped him. So we'll see what happens. Now, as far as hot for the Pirates, Carlos Santana, 6 for his last 19, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. He's slashing 316, 333, 632. Also, you can take a look at Brian Reynolds in his last 20 at bats. He has 5 hits, 1 walk, and 5 Ks. He's a tough guy to get out. 250, 286, 350. So you could see a big drop off there. And then when you look at the bottom of the order, Jack Sawinski, at least he's not playing at Wrigley. But in his last 12 at bats, he only has 2 hits, but he also had those 2 hits for 2 home runs.
Right.
Both solo shots, both against the Cubs. 6 walks, 4 strikeouts. So he has a slash of 167, 412. 667 slugging. So the trouble is, if you make a mistake against him, he's going to make you pay. The big issue that for Pittsburgh, and this was that injury against the White Sox we talked about last time, was O'Neal Cruz. Their shortstops are doing nothing right now. They got one guy, Tucapita Marcano, who's hitting .091, and another guy, Rodolfo Castro, who's hitting .11. So neither of their shortstops are even hitting their weight.
Now,
and so
let's hope that keeps going on.
Yeah, you kind of figure that's really what's going to happen, and that's why it really hurt them to lose O'Neal Cruz.
All right, prediction time, Crawly.
I feel like I like the fact that the Pirates are staggering right now, losing 6 in a row. I like the Stroman against Oviedo matchup. I totally put that in the Cubs corner. The other 2 are tough, so I'm going to go with the Cubs taking 2 of 3 because Pittsburgh's struggling and the Cubs are hot. I don't know why I really am fearful of that Hendricks versus Hill matchup. Hopefully they can get Hill out early and get to the bullpen.
Yeah, 2 out of 3. I'm with you, Crawly, on that. A little meatloaf action. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. That's how I see this. I'm just hoping that the offense doesn't need to be as on fire as it has been, but it definitely needs to be better than it was on Saturday and Sunday.
This is what we talked about, Dustin. It's just finding a middle ground for this team. It's either on or it's off. And we saw that in April when the Cubs were doing really good with runners in scoring position and the bullpen was doing good. And then in the month of May, you saw it being really bad. And now good again in June. You have to limit those extremes of the highs and the lows. If you can sit there and, maybe have a couple, 1 or 2 games, and then come back to hitting some, maybe not 10 runs, but 4 or 5 runs, that'd be great. We just can't go from 10 runs to 1 run, from 16 hits to 2 hits. Can't be doing that all the time.
Right. So somewhere in the middle, a little middle ground.
Right. That's all we're looking for, man.
That's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, download, review. Most importantly, keep subscribing to the Fly the W podcast. Follow us on the socials, Fly the W on Facebook, Instagram, and you can email us, flythew670gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch us on YouTube by subscribing to the 670 The Score YouTube channel.
We want to keep flying the we want to keep flying the W. We don't want to fly the Jolly Roger. Go Cubs. Hey guys, it's Crawly. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date with our latest episodes. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. Go Cubs!